If you're taking an IELTS exam soon, you might have to talk about advertisements. Let's look at a Band 9 model answer to this year's questions about adverts. Now let's move to talk about advertisements. Are you interested in TV advertisements or internet advertisements? I wouldn't say I go out of my way to see internet advertising or promotions on TV, but there are some clever adverts that have gone viral recently. Like in the UK, we had an advert for Money Supermarket, and it was quite clever. You had people doing a kind of dance off and singing about ways they could save money. It was quite funny. And what kind of advertisements do you dislike? The ones that particularly annoy me, I think, are ones to do with perfume or aftershave. Maybe it's because I don't naturally like those kind of products anyway. I very rarely wear them. But also adverts that are quite repetitive, or ones that annoy you if you've seen them more than once and they go round and round in your head, especially when you're trying to sleep. For example, there's one that I can remember called Go Compare, and it was about an opera singer that used to sing Go Compare, Go Compare, and apparently people punched him in the street. Do you share advertisements with others? To be honest, I don't think I have, or at least not for a long time. But then again, there is one that was quite funny. There used to be a Kit Kat advertisement, and it was about some photographers waiting patiently to film these animals. And then as soon as they went to take a break, the animals started dancing in front of all the cameras while they were enjoying their tea, and the photographers don't get their picture. But the tagline is, have a break, have a Kit Kat. Do you want to work in advertising in the future? If you mean in an advertising role, I'd say probably not, because creativity isn't my strong point. But it could be indirectly. Like, I'd quite like to start my own business someday. What kind of advertisements do you watch? Really, it's whatever I'm forced to watch. So if I'm watching YouTube, there's adverts that you can sometimes skip, and if I can, I usually do that. Very occasionally, there's ones that do capture my attention. Probably it's for something that I'm actually looking for. So I do a lot of biking, hiking, so sometimes there's certain equipment that I am actually genuinely looking for to solve a problem. Where do you see advertisements? Well, PR, advertisements, promotions, they're everywhere these days because, well, consumer attention means money. They're on billboards, TV, internet, they're on apps, in phones, on the sides of vans, cars, buses, pretty much anywhere where there are people, there are usually adverts. Have you ever bought something because of its advertisement? I'd like to say no, but inevitably I must have done at some point. So advertising and branding does influence the way we perceive products and brands, and I'm sure that has at least subconsciously affected me. So probably with drinks and food, certain restaurants I've become aware of because of its advertising. Oh, there was one thing I bought my mum, definitely because of an advert, and that was quite a few years ago. It was a Nintendo DS, and it was because we were watching TV and she saw the advert about training her brain, and she was quite worried about going senile, even though she's quite young. So that was her present that I bought her. Do you watch advertisements from beginning to end? Very rarely I might deliberately watch an advert from start to finish, but usually you can see a little number at the bottom if they're online advertisements. You can skip them, or if they're only going to be about 10 seconds, then it might not be worth the effort going up and then pressing skip advert. So for those ones, I'm more inclined to watch them. And occasionally there might be quite a compelling story or something that's quite funny, like the kind of ones that go viral. They might be worth watching too. How do you feel about advertisements? I suppose I neither love nor hate them, but they're just a necessary part of life and of capitalism and consumption. Is there much advertising in your country? I'd say there's a lot of adverts in the UK, but certainly not as many as in the US. I lived there very briefly in New York for a while, and there it seemed like they had at least twice the number of adverts per programme that was on TV. So yeah, in the UK there's a lot, but not as much as in America. Do you like advertisements on TV? For me, I'm not a fan of modern adverts so much. Strangely enough, I do quite like watching the old adverts from the 80s or 90s. Perhaps it gives me a feeling of nostalgia and helps me remember those days. I also think it's quite an insight into the culture and how people thought in those days. Like, there was a Roses advert in the UK and a guy was trying to park his car, but there was a truck in the way. So these two very old grannies came and moved this truck along together to help this guy park, and then he gave them a box of roses. That was quite an old advert. If these Band 9 answers helped you, you'll want to check out this next topic, which is confusing some test takers right now.